Dental Fuel, the podcast that focuses on what no one else is talking about: mistakes. The dental world is full of before and afters, and no one is talking about the middle. Dental Fuel brings you the unspoken in between. In today's episode, we have Dr. Pamela Maragliano-Muniz. We're back with Dr. Pamela Maragliano-Muniz. In this episode, Dr. Maragliano-Muniz shares a financial mistake that she made and how that mistake shaped the way that she practiced dentistry. In your own case, what are some or a financial mistake that you made and how you learned from it?
Oh my gosh, I made the hugest financial mistake, and I'm happy to share it because I hope other people don't do what I did. So I bought my practice in 2014. My practice was 32 years old at the time, and the owner really didn't want to sell her practice. She had to. Her husband wanted her to, and she needed a shoulder replacement. So it was just kind of like timing was the right time for her, but emotionally, mentally, it was not. She just wanted to continue to practice. So that's a her problem, not a me problem, but it was still a problem nonetheless. So she and I never really got along. I think if I met her under different circumstances, we would love each other, but I was the person that took her practice from her. Even though I bought it and she signed the paperwork too, it was just never, we were never going to be friends, for that reason. So she ended up having to leave about 3 months after I bought the practice. And so, fine, I was happy about that. But I didn't have the confidence to create the practice of my dreams. I felt that patients needed some sort of consistency. And if I got rid of the owner, I also hated the inside of the practice. So as quickly as I could, I started redoing floors and walls and changing the aesthetic of the practice. I felt like it was important to maintain the team. And even though they're nice people, love them, would love to have tea with them, they really weren't like my people. They were her people, not mine. And so I spent 6 years just sort of trying to deal with this team that was her team. And I wanted things to be a little bit more progressive. I was super into caries management and preventive, and there was just things that I wanted my practice to be, and it really wasn't that way. And so cut to the pandemic, I, for the first time in my whole life, had 3 months to just kind of sit back and think about things. And I really wasn't happy. And I loved my practice. I love my patients. I like what I do, but the core of how it's being done was really, really displeasing to me. So it was interesting because when you have something like a pandemic or some sort of challenge like this, who your ride or dies are and who's not there for you. And so it was really evident that my office manager was my ride or die. And I basically said to her at one point, I know this is super candid and super unprofessional, but I said, if I never saw their faces again, I would be very happy. And I'd never thought like that before. And I realized that my team is killing me. They're just, they're killing this practice. I felt like I was the captain of a sinking ship. And it just sort of is what it is. And something clicked in my mind during the pandemic where I was like, you know what? I get along with people. People get along with me. Why am I trying to fit into this mold of the ghost of this dentist that's not even here anymore with this team that just doesn't care if we're productive or whatever else? I just can't do it anymore. So I got rid of my entire clinical team.
Wow.
During the pandemic. And while it was, it's a business decision, little did I realize how quickly, what a poor financial decision it was to keep them. And 2020 was my best year this office ever had. And it literally has grown leaps and bounds ever since. And so I just feel so blessed that I am where I am now but I really wish I did this like, I don't know, 8 years ago instead of just waiting till the pandemic to make this decision. So I can't even think about how much money I lost and, again, what a poor business decision it was to keep these people. But my advice moving forward would be trust yourself. You're a good person. You're going to attract people that are like you, and your team should have a similar vision to you. And, even if you're an associate or a new dentist, spend a little time with yourself and decide what is your vision, what is your mission. And that can change over time. It's not like you have to maintain that, after you buy a practice, but sit down and realize what your core values are and try to be around people that have like values. Because when you are with people that see you and are willing to support your dream and your vision, all of a sudden, everything falls into place and it's a whole lot more fun. That's for sure.
Gosh, thank you for being so candid and sharing that with me and our listeners. What a harsh reality to face. And I think it's a huge, important reality to face. And I think COVID was probably the right time for many teams to make some transitions and some changes. But it makes me think of how many more people are in similar situations, whether they're practice owners who have bought a practice that maybe are in a team that doesn't support them, or associates who are in a practice who may be scared to leave because they have something that financially supports them at that point in time, and leaving may be a leap of faith that they don't know if they'll be able to kind of survive financially. So what a harsh reality to face, but an important one at the end of the day.
But ultimately, facing it was the best thing I could have ever done. I can also tell you this, that I was an associate too, and I was an associate in 3 practices before I decided to buy. And while there were some really, really great benefits to each of the practices that I worked in, there were also challenges. And everybody's journey is different, so you have to do what's right for you. But I remember there was, one practice I worked in, loved it because I was a hygienist there. But then I was never really seen as much more than a hygienist there. And so I wasn't really looked at as a colleague. I was like always the junior kid, and they never really elevated me in any way there. So when there was an opportunity to pick up more days teaching, I was like, I'm going to go do that. And then I was working in another office that was really insurance driven and very busy. The team was like a dysfunctional family that you absolutely love. And to this day, I'm still in touch with most of them. And it was just such an interesting practice. And I loved it there. But there were issues with collections, and there were issues with, all of a sudden I'd be like, why? Like, I'm doing all this work. Where's all my money? And then I would sit back and I would take a part of a Saturday. I'd come in and I would go through my schedule and the ledger. And sometimes work I did was given to another dentist on the ledger, or maybe it wasn't collected, or maybe the insurance never paid and nobody followed up on it. And so every, few months, I would get kind of mad. I'd sit down and do this, and then there would be, tens of thousands of dollars that are just sort of missing. And then we have to kind of scrape it back together so I can get my pay. So that was annoying enough for me to feel like, then they changed a manager or whatever. So I was like, I think I'm going to change. And I joined a fee-for-service practice. And I was like, all right, well, so I don't have this problem here, but I have that problem here. I'm going to go over here. And it was like, there were just new problems. And I finally decided for me that if I'm going to have problems, I want them to be my own problems. So maybe it's time to own. And so that was really for me what prompted me to go and buy a practice. And so if you have a great associateship that you love, and you don't have to go buy a practice, but if you feel that it's something you really want to do, I think having great mentors around you will be really helpful. Gosh, you guys with Ignite, you don't have a better mentor than Dr. Rice. Yeah. It doesn't happen. And then, but make it happen, manifest it, because it will certainly be worth it for you.
Absolutely. And just to plug Ignite a little bit, for me, David Rice is a huge mentor and colleague, but whenever I have clinical and financial questions, he's usually somebody that I'll message because he's so willing to help. And this is for anyone, anyone who messages him on Instagram, he's willing to help. And just to plug a little bit, Ignite DDS does something, or is starting something called Masterminds. And by the time this goes out, this is probably in full swing. But if you're interested in purchasing a practice and don't know where to start, this is a great way to kind of learn more information and connect you with the right people. So you know the steps to take towards the direction that you'd like to go in purchasing or starting a new practice. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Dental Fuel. We've got more to come with Dr. Maragliano-Muniz. We hope that you'll tune in next week for our next episode.